Opposition leader Peter Dutton has warned Anthony Albanese he's making a catastrophic mistake by not providing accessible information on The Voice. Meanwhile, former Indigenous Affairs Minister Ken Wyatt is calling on Mr Dutton to allow Liberal MPs a conscience vote. Joining me now live is Uluru Dialogue Campaign spokesperson and constitutional lawyer Eddie Synot. Eddie, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, what do you make of Peter Dutton's comments?
They're not surprising, I guess, given the history of what we're talking about here with regards to, the Liberal Party, or the coalition, coming to form their position shortly, and some of the other things that have been happening in this space. But I think at the end of the day, more than anything else, they remind us as the Uluru Dialogue why we issued the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which calls for a voice to Parliament. To the Australian people. It was never going to be politicians and the politicking that goes on that gets this job done. It's always going to be up to the Australian people, and the Australian people have got us this far from when politicians originally didn't want to hear about this reform to the point where this year we're finally going to get to be able to have our say as Australians on whether or not we support this reform.
Does he have a point though? I mean, has the scope and operation of The Voice been clear enough? Would people actually know what they are being asked to vote on?
Yes, I don't agree that he has a point on that kind of detail. I think people do know what we're being asked to vote on. And I think the opposition leader and I think other people in his party, including, the opposition spokesperson on Indigenous Australians and the Attorney General, Julie and Lisa, have a really important part to play in being able to lead the Australian people in that conversation as well. They were part of a government that did a lot of the work on the potential detail of what a voice could look like. So they themselves are, or should at least be aware of the information and the hard work that has done. Julian Leeser himself led one of those committees along with Senator Patrick Dodson. And then we're also got the, very important point to make that as Australians, we're asked to vote on the principle or the power that goes into the Constitution itself. We're not asked to vote on the intricate detail of how the voice will actually operate or what Parliament does with that. And I guess the important point with that as well is that if it doesn't work, or if Peter Dutton's not happy with it and he happens to win government, or he can work with the government of the day, the voice can change as it's needed to be able to adapt to the practical needs of the relationship. So I don't entirely agree with him that there isn't enough detail or that these questions need to be answered. I think that detail does exist. I think the important detail that needs to be known and that we need to lead the conversation with Australian people on is about exactly what we're going to be voting for at the referendum and the importance of that.
So when do you expect that we could find out more detail about this proposal?
Yeah, so there's already a significant amount of detail available at the moment, including the draft amendment, the draft question, and also information that's been coming out from the three working groups. So we've seen this year already, early this year, the Prime Minister and the Minister, Linda Burney, announced that it would happen this year and that, move more towards a timetable and discussing when the bill will be introduced. And so along with those kind of things, that's when we'll start to see what we've heard from the government about launching their civics campaign on the referendum and how the Constitution works and what this change to the Constitution is going to do. And then we'll see the ramp up from the Yes and I guess from the other campaigns in this space as well, putting their information out into the public.
Eddie Synot, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Not a problem.